Alrighty, howdy everybody. So today I am starting a Blackberry Apple Mead. I'm taking the basics of my Blackberry Mead that I did a few months back, and I'm going to be adding apple during the second phase of fermentation, also known as conditioning, when fermentation is supposed to have stopped, essentially, and it just infuses, the fruit infuses into the alcohol. But today we're starting with the first batch of blackberries in primary fermentation so that you really get all use of all those sugars and all of those extra flavors. And then we add more blackberries during that secondary conditioning. So for now, first, everything has been sanitized in the lovely black bucket. I made extra sanitation fluid today because I had to refill these guys. So that was fun. And next, I have about 6 pounds of blackberries to put into the fermenter because we're doing a 2-gallon batch today, so we need even more blackberries. So let's bring those over here. Okay. Now, I do have to say that these blackberries were actually courtesy of our friend Justin. He, on his property with his wife, have a slew of blackberry vines that are just overtaking the property. And so every summer they have thousands, if not millions, of berries that just decide to pop out, and we could not resist going and picking some. And we even have some from last year. No, 2023 is what the bag is labeled. It's fine. Even if it was freezer burnt in the freezer, it's totally fine. The more that the fruit itself is broken down from the freezing process, then it's easier for the yeast to get into it. So with that, let's go ahead and open our first bag. Now, you see in the fermenter, I already have what is a bag to help me get the blackberries out later and keep the blackberries from going into our secondary vessel. So this is essentially a hop bag. It's used in beer for grain. No, sorry, not hops bag. This is a grain bag for beer so that they don't have to, they can take the grains out of the wort as easily as possible. What you might have also seen during the time lapse before this is that I put marbles in the bag so that the bag doesn't float once we are in fermentation. With all those gases bubbling up in the process, the bag and the fruit would just love to float to the top. Hopefully this will help it stay a little bit closer towards the bottom. Come on, no berry left behind. There we go. All right. So now, flip that back over. You can see just how much of that is blackberry. It's a lot. It's a lot, which is perfectly fine. It's exactly what we want. So now I'm going to tie off the top and hopefully everything stays towards the bottom. All right, time for 3 pounds of honey. And by 3 pounds of honey, I actually mean 6 pounds since we're doing a 2-gallon batch. Almost forgot the water. That would have been difficult. All right, so back to weighing up the honey. So I'm actually going to do 3 pounds in one pitcher and then 3 pounds in another pitcher just to make life easy on myself, because there's no way I would be able to get all 6 pounds of honey in here and be able to stir it enough in order to get it into the fermenter. So we've got about a ½ pound there. This means a little bit more time upside down. And that's obviously not another ½ pound because our lovely Kirkland wildflower honey comes in 5-gallon jugs. And so I need another ½ pound. Luckily, I have another partial jar of honey. What is it, kitty? So I'm thinking of starting a kitty counter on my videos. Let me know what y'all think. That's 15.7 ounces right there. So this should be the last bit of this. There we go. Very good. Awesome. So that is that. Actually, I'll go ahead and use some of our water to wash this out. It's empty. We want all that honey in there. After I add 2 more pounds to this. All right, there's 3 pounds. Now, some of you may ask, how did I decide on 3 pounds? A little bit of his experience and a little bit is what I have been researching. 3 pounds of honey will give me something around the lines of 11 to 13% ABV, which is great as a wine, which is what mead is. It is a honey wine, meaning that we use honey as the fermentable sugar and we don't malt it. There is no grain involved, so it can't be beer. So it is a type of wine. So you see that I shook it all up in order to get that honey, which worked. It's great. So now I'm going to add some more water to that honey to mix up even further. And I'm going to be messy about it because we need to aerate the brew at this point, because yeast at the beginning of fermentation need that oxygen in order to ferment. And now my favorite tool, the spattle. It's a paddle and it's a spoon. It's a spattle. Have I used it for anything besides brewing it? No, but I'm sure I will. first batch of 3 pounds going in. Tear it out. And here we go with another 3 pounds. See if I can get the rest of this in there. Okay. I'm gonna let this sit and think about its life choices. We're at that point where I need a 1/2 pound, but the honey's a little slow. I'm gonna do what I did with the other one and stop the flow for now. And let it think about its life choices while I get our nutrients ready. So, I'm gonna go ahead and add them to the brew so that they mix in nicely. First thing I'm going to add is pectic enzyme. Sorry, it likes to clump up. So pectic enzyme is an enzyme that breaks down the proteins in the fruit to break them down even further for the yeast. It also helps with the haze. We don't want it to be hazy. We want it to be nice and clear as clear glass. And so this will help break that down. And according to the directions, it says 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. Therefore, 2 1/2 teaspoons is 1 teaspoon. Going right in. There we go. So there's the pectic enzyme. Next, we have fermate O. This I also need to measure out. But I need to use grams. That would change things a little bit, so I'm not going to do that. All right, this is collected, so let's see if we can get those last few ounces. All right, so I know that there's a few ounces left and I need a couple more ounces in here, so I'm just going to wash the honey out. It's really tempting to lick your fingers, but you can't. So I do want to make clear that I'm aerating, not oxidizing. Oxidizing is the breaking down of oxygen and adding it into the alcohol process. Since there is no alcohol left, I can't oxidize. And we don't want oxidation because we don't want it to turn into vinegar. And it creates that really off taste that is just real funky. Normally you see me with the Geyser 1 gallon jugs. This time I'm using these because Teddy and some friends went off on a camping trip and they had extras, so now they're mine. Just getting the last of the honey that's still stuck in here. Ooh, I might be getting a little greedy. Ooh. right, let's see if I can get this in there, because I still also have to add the yeast. All right, that's all I can do. That is very full. So it's not a full 2-gallon batch. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. So that means later I'm gonna have to, when I rack it, I'm gonna have to dilute it down with the water I have remaining. Because otherwise it'll get too sweet and also take a little too long to get dry, to go dry. And I know that we want it to go dry. So this is making a good case that I need more vessels. Nuclear vessels. Now tell me what movie that's from. Okay, so since we're short, I don't know why I put it in there. Okay. So I've got 5.5. It looks like I have 2.5 quarts left in here, which means that I have 5.5 quarts in the fermenter. Good to know. Good to know. So that's done. Where was I? Yes, I was going to do fermento. So I'm going to do 5 grams. No, it's not 5. Three grams of fermento. Since these blackberries were out in the wild, and there's probably some stemmage in there because we were not very careful when it came to the stems, the nutrients may not be quite as necessary, but I'm still going to give some. Okay. All right, there's 3 grams going right on in. The only problem is that it likes to stick and whatnot, so. It likes to come out eventually. Okay. Oh, she's a big girl today. All right, well, let's give this a little bit of a stir. I can't be too rough with it because of the berries already being in here, but... All right, so now the yeast. I found this yeast. It is W yeast, Y yeast. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, but it is their dry mead 4632. I decided to go the liquid route this time around just to see how it goes. I did see that this is particularly good for melomels and it has an alcohol tolerance of 18%. So this is probably going to be one very alcoholic mead, considering I was only able to get about 5 liters, if not a little bit more, of water in. Now, there are some juices from the blackberries, yes, so that will help a little bit, but the sooner that I can get this into a larger vessel, the better. Yeah. Ooh, I can smell the yeasties. Now, I will say, I'm not much of a fan of the preparation of this one because you have to be ready to, you have to like think about your brew day way in advance because it's you have to keep it in the fridge because it's a liquid yeast. You're technically supposed to keep all yeasts in the fridge. I keep my house pretty cool, so the dry yeast I'm not as concerned about, but liquid yeast you have to keep in the fridge. And then the day of brewing you have to, what does it say? have the pouch come out to room temperature, then you put it on the counter and smack it to break the other pouch that actually releases the yeast inside. And then you have to wait for like 3 to 5 hours for the bag to swell. And it's just, that's too much. That's too much. So I don't know if I'm going to do this again. That's a lie. I have another set of liquid yeast in the fridge that's not this brand. That'll be on a different day. All right. Give another stir. Make sure things are well incorporated. Okay, so I'm going to take my gravity reading, knowing that the gravity reading, while it changes during fermentation, yes, it's going to change even further because I'll be diluting the ABV even further from what this than what it initially says. That's the words I'm looking for. And I'm also going to take a pH reading. Hopefully it's not too acidic. Let's see, holding it up to the light. That's a strong 2. I might need to add some salts. I will go get my potassium carbonate. Okay. So yeast like the pH of their environment to be somewhere between 3.5 to 5.5 essentially, or 3 to 5. 4.5 is its really happy place. And so right now with the pH being at 2, that is too acidic. So I'm gonna change it by adding some potassium carbonate. And the directions say 3.8 grams per gallon. So I'm just going to put that 3.8 to move it 0.1%. I'm going to start with that 3.8. I'm going to start with a teaspoon. Let me sanitize my teaspoon. But while that's happening, I can take my gravity reading. Now, I'm a little concerned because it has a gravity reading of 1.106. That's a little bit higher than what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna clean out my refractometer, wipe it out, test to recalibrate it with water, and do it again. Okay. Let's get it one more time. I've recalibrated it. Okay, so it's gonna be that. So again, the gravity reading is going to change because I'll be adding that water later in order to get this up to 2 gallons. And the gravity reading will also change because the fruit juices are not accounted for in the honey. So we're just going to be guesstimating really when it comes to the ABV of this thing. Oh well, it's home brewing. We're guesstimating anyway. All right. So now that I've got everything mixed, it's time to put a lid on, put an airlock on, and let it sit for a couple weeks, if not 3 weeks or more. I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully that doesn't mess with the airlock. Oh, you're a heavy girl. You know what, y'all? You're right. I forgot to actually add the potassium carbonate. Silly Rachel. So I did use the sanitizer on the towels as well. That's why I'm able to dry it off. Because normally you don't want to dry it off. But it's a powder, so you gotta. All right, so we've added the carbonate. Let's see what the pH reading's gonna say. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna call that good enough. It's like between 3 and 4, if not closer to 4. So that was perfect. Yay, 1 teaspoon did the trick. All right, so now I'm gonna put a lid and an airlock on and put this in for fermenting.